something was going to happen to that. Oh, might be.
You've seen his presence everywhere. From Marilyn Monroe to Bob Dylan, everyone knew his name. Andy Warhol catapulted himself into the world of art, music, and New York society. Underneath the talent and awkwardness, there was a thriving intellectual that no one understood. Throughout his life, Andy Warhol was the biggest artist who contributed to pop art. His iconic pieces are still much loved today, a mere 60 years later. Andy Warhol was born Andrew Warhol in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on August 6, 1928. Unbeknownst to most people, he was diagnosed with a rare neurological disorder at an early age. Bedridden and lonely, he found comfort in DC Comics and magazines full of movie stars, which was undoubtedly inspiration for his future art. Mostly known about Andy was his persona that he had of uninterested and bored, which he played with during his college years. After moving to New York, he dropped the A from his name and attended Carnegie Institute of Technology, which is now Carnegie Mellon University, until he graduated in 1948. In his first year of living in New York, Andy found work quickly. He was commissioned for ads in newspapers and magazines such as Vogue, Glamour, and Harper's Bazaar. He also designed beautiful window displays for women's department stores. When he made his name as a graphic artist, Warhol had his first art exhibition. The 60s were a hectic time for Andy. Building on his experience as an ad illustrator, he was able to conquer the galleries with his pop art and become a household name. It was during this time that Andy started painting his iconic works. Basic American possessions were suddenly art, and no one understood it. The paintings of Campbell's soup cans and celebrities such as Elvis and Marilyn Monroe and Coca-Cola were all at his first exhibit in 1962. 2 years later, Andy was even in an exhibit with 5 other pop artists. It was held by the Museum of Modern Art and was the first show to ask the public what art really was. Here, his soup can paintings were selling for $1,500 when just an autographed can of soup was $6. At his prime, Andy had his wealth in his factory. The factory was Andy's studio, where drag queens, the superstars, the wealthy, and the popular came to flaunt Andy's presence. Here, Warhol became interested in producing movies. His superstars, or actors, were basically Warhol's followers, which worked in his movies for little to no pay. Between the years of 1963 and 68, Warhol had made more than 50 films, not including countless stop recordings or screen testings that he shot of his factory companions. Of these movies, sadly only a few became popular. Warhol's genius and ingenuity showed true in his film Chelsea Girls, where 2 cameras were showing different films at the same time. The audio for one movie would play to complement the other while the other was muted. Amidst all his fame, Andy Warhol's many connections proved nearly fatal for him on June 3, 1968. A feminist named Valerie Solanas, who had starred in Warhol's film I, a Man, had been turned away from the factory after asking for a script to be returned. Supposedly the script had been replaced. Warhol was shot along with a friend, Mario Amaya, who was only wounded. Upon arrival, Warhol was pronounced clinically dead. The shot had damaged his gallbladder, liver, spleen, and intestine. The accident caused Warhol to have health complications for the rest of his life, which contributed to his death in 1987. Andy Warhol's brushstroke on the art world will never be smudged. He created a new way to think, a new way to perceive art, and became a role model for anyone wanting to be different. A fan of all mediums, his films, paintings, books, and photographs are a timeline of his life and how he felt about it. Warhol welcomed everyone he thought was important into his factory, and like himself, he created superstars. Not only did his art reach all parts of the world, but it still is. The Andy Warhol Museum in Pittsburgh was created in 1989, 2 years after the Andy Warhol Foundation on the year of his death. The Andy Warhol Foundation was at the request of the man himself and his will. He had all of his things auctioned off, and the proceeds reached toward $20 million. The foundation is still one of the most grant-giving foundations toward the visual arts in the United States. In every medium, in every form, Andy Warhol is still reaching and affecting the world.